What's going on, Facebook family? Familia Day Facebook. What's good? Me and my brother Bishop Cornelius Bowser are on the wheels of steel tonight, and looking forward to connecting with y'all. If you guys can, share the video and
share it.
Yeah, and if you can't, share it anyway.
Share it.
And so it's good to be back. As I always say, my brother, it's always good to have the pleasure to sit next to you, my brother. You are an encouragement. I think about the Apostle Paul, how he always tells the church that I continue to pray for you.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And I just pray that the Lord continues to give you wisdom.
Thank you. I need it.
Because you run in some really, when you walk alone, that's what people need. Well, you walk in a gathered purpose with other people,
absolutely.
but a lot of your appointments are solo. And so I just want to say, man, I see you, brother, and I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by the trials and tribulations that I see you go through. It's not until, living life really gives us the opportunity to see what the scripture talks about.
Right.
When Paul says, I'm encouraged when I see this, and a lot of Christians don't realize that one of the biggest testaments to our trust in the Lord is our ability to endure suffering.
Amen.
And the other part is that we do things together.
Amen.
See, I know
right.
that if I'm standing for things that make sense, that are pleasing to God, if you love God, then you'll stand with me.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And vice versa.
Amen.
I know that if you're standing for something, I'm going to stand with you. You know what I mean?
Amen.
And I always tell people, I don't have any friends. I don't have friends. I either got acquaintances or family.
Amen.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I consider you family, brother.
You family too,
man.
man.
And
likewise, man.
Bruh.
What you be saying about me, I'm like, nah, that's really you, man. That's really you.
No, that's you.
I see how you roll, man. I said, man. And I come to you proud. I said, man, how you do that, man? I couldn't handle that.
Man, but you do things. But that's the beauty. The scripture talks about that believers are like, He designs His church, and people. I think if we really understood this, a lot of the jealousy and the desire to, I want to be Bishop Bowser, or I want to be Jason, or I want to be Mika, or I want to be Tasha, or I want to just be who you are. You just play in the lane that you run in, and when we do that, because God makes that's how any group is successful.
That's right.
You can't have a group full of the same people.
You're right.
That don't work in football. It don't work in basketball. That doesn't work. It doesn't work in the church. And so one of the things we have to realize, man, is that each one of us has a gift. And I just really thank God for your gift. The reason why I say the things and I'm passionate about what I'm passionate about, ultimately, I think in the grand scheme of things, we want the same thing. It's just that the way we go about it sometimes would be a different thing. So you speak and think about different stuff that I do, but ultimately we want to be the same place. So man, I thank God for brothers like you, man. And man, you just really encourage my heart on a regular basis, and I probably bring you up once or twice every week. And it's just good to know when people try to speak badly about the faith and about, I can say, nah, I know about some other brothers that are doing work, but I only know them through the internet. But I know a brother right now that I could call right now that's about that business in real life, and that's you. And so I thank God for you, brother. So
thank God for you too.
Man, I appreciate that, man.
Thank
right
you.
On.
Yeah.
To everybody that's joining in right now, we just want to say what's up. I don't know who all still watching, but Mika chimed in, Leilani, hey, Susanna Bankhead, Tammy Jackson, Brother Berin, Matthew Arthur, Andrew Strong, Chad Pradiata, that's my guy from high school, Leon Matthews from my hometown.
All right.
What's up, family? How's everybody doing? I don't know who all still here. It doesn't even matter because we're gonna get down regardless.
Watch it later.
Yeah, we don't do this for numbers. Hey, what's up, Gary? So what we're gonna talk about tonight, what we want to talk about is one of the things is supporting politicians, and that's national politicians from the president
all the way down
to local politicians, to our city council members, our mayor, anybody who affects us. We want to talk about supporting these politicians that really have no specified plan for dealing with the issues in the black communities.
That's right.
Or I like to say black neighborhoods, because the truth is I feel like we have a lot of work to do before we can be a community.
Amen.
With common unity, right? Where we all come together for one purpose.
That's right.
Different gifts. We got some people in the community that are focused on business. Some are focusing on mental health. Some are, because it's all interconnected, but there's no plan to deal with that, right? So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about the need for more focused organizing in the black community or neighborhood, right? And the reason is because if we don't get organized, and if we can't have competing like priorities, and we have to make the health in general of our community a priority. And then we want to talk about the homework dinner trade introduction. That's a monthly program that I do for men and women that are being released from incarceration for anywhere from 30 years on down, 40, it doesn't matter. And we want to connect them with the trades to help them to get good careers in ways that they can have health care benefits and be supported by a union. And we want to talk about the millions of dollars donated by Christians that were given to hate groups. We want to talk about that. And then if anybody else just chimes in and wants to ask a question, we want to hear from them as well. You know what I mean? So, what's up, Mika Meek? So, Tasha's watching. What's up, Tasha? What's up, sis? Mika says, hey, with the wave. Wait, is that I think that's a wave. Yeah, I can't know. I don't know. What's up? The
hand would be just open. I think.
I'm not sure. These memes you get me sometimes. Hey, what's going on, Carol Kim? Speaking of homework, Carol Kim is with the San Diego Trade Council, and just unbelievable. So let's start with our first order of business, which is supporting politicians, national or local, that have no specified plan for dealing with issues in black communities. And just as a, I guess as a, what do you call it? As a, like our job is not to tell people what to think, just so people know that this is just what we think, right?
Exactly.
And I had to tell
be conscious of it.
I had to tell one of my daughter's teachers one time. He said something crazy, so I had to go up there and talk to him and tell him, "Your job is not to teach my daughter what to think. Your job is to teach my daughter how to think." You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, can you introduce that whole thing? Like, what kind of prompted you to want to deal with that issue this week?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, if you looked at my post, you'd have saw that.
Yeah. No, what you said to me?
No, Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
Because he showed up, I think it was somewhere in South Carolina, and out of 1,600 people, only about 40 black people showed up. And, the statement that I was making, and others were making the same statement, is that, black people are no longer putting up with folks that don't have a black agenda.
That's the article that you texted me.
Yeah.
I looked through that.
Yeah, people like Bernie Sanders, and a lot of people like him, he talking about socialism, all the other kind of things, but when you really narrow down to the black agenda, he almost, you would think he was a racist. The way that he ignores it, okay. I know he's specifically been asked about reparations, a lot of them are scared to address that, but we're at that day and age, man, that time to where that, you're going to have to start addressing the black agenda, and some of the things that we always talk about, we talk about specifically for black people. If you listen to most of these politicians running for president, they will say things like, whatever policy they pass is going to benefit everybody. But we know that black people are always on the bottom of everything. And when we look at our economics, when we look at our educational system, when we look at our communities, when we look at the businesses, when we look at bank loans, when we look at all of this, black people are always on the bottom. Even when a black person get a college degree, whether master's, doctorate, or whatever, they're still lagging behind others, especially those that are equivalent to them and have degrees that are white people. They're probably down there with folks with high school diplomas with white folks. So black people are way behind, and it's not because we're not smart. It's not because we're not brilliant. It's not because we're not skillful or hard workers. We have all of that. One example I'll give you is, our community, Southeast San Diego, which is one of our communities. That's where I grew up at. Sure. And 50% of the people is in poverty, And this poverty that they're in is not because they don't have a job, and then someone threw something on me one time. They were saying, well, they probably need to get better skills. No, we got a lot of people that have college degrees, high school diplomas, associate degrees, skills, like myself, I didn't go to college, but I went to trade school, and have all these different type of skills and education, but still can't get a job that will pay a livable wage.
Gotcha.
And a lot of that is tied into our race, man, and if people don't look at it, that it's something that black people have been going through since slavery, but since slavery ended, when they declared our freedom, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we're saying today in this day and era is that we're no longer going to vote for you just because you're a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm nonpartisan. Okay. But I most time vote Democrat. So, okay. Sometimes vote Republican. It depends on who it is and what they're saying. But I'm a free thinker, and I'm an independent thinker, and I'm going to vote the way I want to vote. I don't care if people like it or not.
I get it.
But my thing is that I'm always looking at issues, you know what I mean? And when it comes to black folks, I don't care if it's Obama or whoever, people they don't address the issues when it comes to our black people and the issues that impact us directly. And so, like I was talking last week, black people, we should be a protected class of people, and when we go to get if a young person want to go to college, they should be treated special because of all the stuff they went through. You go to get a job, you should be treated special. Your application should be put on the top because you're black and what you've been through, especially if you're a descendant of slavery, your forefathers were in slavery. You know what I mean? And so in all areas, these lanes you want to look at when you talk about education, economics, employment, housing, politics, all these different avenues that you want to look at when it comes to black people, we should be, if you're going to have equity, we should be right there with everybody else, but we're not. And so politicians want to come into our communities and come and speak and think that, and to our churches and think that, we're just going to vote for them because they're a Democrat or whatever they're supposed to be, and say, oh yeah, I'm with the black people and all this, but your policies doesn't say that. And if you can't direct and say something specifically, and as one person says, some tangibles, some specific things for black people, if you can't address that, if you can't say that, if you can't deal with that, then we're not voting for you no more. And see, we got to, as long as we vote for them, as long as we do what people say, because people say, oh, well, that don't matter. They'll use Trump. They use all these other type of issues to say, we got to vote for him. He's the best choice. You vote for the lesser evil. No. If there's a close vote, and if the black people can decide it, and if we're united together, we can determine what the agenda would be, right? But as long as we're divided and scattered and not standing together as a people, and when it comes to the vote, and when a politician knows that he's going to get your vote anyway, he's not going to address the issues that concern our community, that issues that we're dealing with all the time in our communities, right? So you can look at the racial wealth gap, and blacks are lagging way behind, man, when you look at the racial wealth gap. And so that needs to be fixed. We need equity. And right now, these politicians that's running for president, they're not really addressing that. They address climate change. They address specifically things for everyone, but not for black people.
So a couple of things. One, wow. You know what I mean? Wow. And what's interesting is I don't think anybody watching this would be like, I didn't know that, right? I think most people would be like, no, that's true.
But how are they voting?
Well, so a couple of things that I would like for you to speak about is how do we? So two things. Can you talk more about why should black applications be moved to the front? Mm-hmm. First thing, mm-hmm. And then two. Do you think that there's enough education in our communities to understand why a collective vote, or why it matters about how you and I differ? how does it matter in the grand scheme of things? And you may not even know this, or know how to, or whatever. But I think we need to have discussions. I don't know
Absolutely.
how much, because
Absolutely.
it matters. If you have 10 people that are voting for something and 3 are going to go one way and 7 another, it matters.
Exactly.
And so, can you talk about why should black applications be put to the front? Because that's somebody will slam you on that, like, oh, that's, but
Affirmative action.
that's, yeah, but how do you justify that?
Ooh, man. So one of the movements that is happening today that I think black people should become a part of and really jump on. Maybe you need to put a hashtag in the thing in the your subjects. ADOS, hashtag ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, because there's a movement that I've joined. And when I say join, it's really not something that you can join. Either you're American descendant of slavery or you're not, right? But I've started speaking out about it and joined in the movement in the sense of pushing for reparations. And one of the things that people don't, even our own people sometimes don't think about, because of the narrative that's been put out there, right? Oh, you'll never get reparations. Black people will, y'all been talking about that for a long time and it never happened. And so all of a sudden this year and coming in towards the end of last year, and last year, politicians been forced to talk about it, right? But when you talk about what black folks have gone through slavery, and how America gained its riches through slavery. And we talked about this before. And then when blacks were set free, we were oppressed, we were terrorized, we were persecuted, we were killed, we were lynched, we were treated as a second-class citizen. They passed the 13th Amendment, no person be in slavery except for punishment of a crime. And so they created that and then started convict leasing, right? Started arresting black people for anything. 90% of the people that was being arrested by the laws that they were making were black people versus the other 10% was white. And so we know based on that and convict leasing. And so what they would do, they would lease out these black folks to warehouses, farms, different types of industries and so on, to work for these companies for free. And many times it was another form of slavery. And some said sometimes it was even worse than slavery. People's family members were disappearing. And then you talk about convict leasing. Then when that ended, that went well into the 1900s. And then you talk about the separate but equal and Jim Crow and segregation and the redlining, where they redlined the districts. And it was really against black people specifically. When you talk about redlining, as far as giving loans for banks, and so the areas where black folks live, they because of segregation, they redlined that and they put that they graded it like a D. I believe T.H. Coates talked about that with a case for reparations, and so the banks wouldn't give loans for the areas. So you have these guys that will come and buy these white guys buy these houses up. They had money and they were kind of like loaners, loan bankers or whatever you want to call them. But if the house cost $12,000, they would sell it to the black person for $24,000. Kind of the way they do these cars these days with high interest and everything. And then they had such a tight contract, a strict contract to if the black person slipped up any kind of way, they would lose their house. They really mandated you couldn't miss any payments or anything like that. Some people's lands were just straight up taken from them and so on. All this oppression against black people, man. When you look at the airline industry, aircraft industry, train industry, radio, TV, all these things, black people were denied license to do these things. White folks was able to excel and advance in these things where black people were left behind all the time. And then segregation, then now mass incarceration, right? And police brutality, the way our communities are being policed. We know that. We know that there is a differential treatment. And when you look at the racial wealth gap, it shows that it doesn't matter if you have a criminal record or not. It shows that black people are discriminated against and treated differently. All the way from slavery to this day, right now, today, is the same. People say, oh, things are getting better. For who? because it's getting better it's decreasing and getting worse for black people. I don't care what nobody, people say whatever you want to say. Maybe individuals, yeah. But that you don't see Jay-Z's millions or whatever it is trickling down to us, right? You know, whatever he's doing, he's still making his million, and more power to him. But you can't point out a few millionaires and billionaires that are black and say, well, they made it, because that's not for that. Everybody's not going to be a billionaire and a millionaire. And so when you talk about reparations, or when you talk about bringing equity, we got to address that. And when you talk about a black agenda, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, so when you talk about black agenda, somebody pushing for something, black people should be a protected class of people. So when you talk about reparations is about money, but it's not just about money. It's about land. It's about a lot of other different things. And so if I go apply for a job and we want to bridge this equity gap, then American descendants of slavery, peoples whose forefathers was in slavery, and those that have suffered from slavery all the way to now, being black, we should be treated as a protected class of people. When we go apply for a job, yes, our job. This is an ADOS. This is an American descendant of slavery. His application come on the top, because we're gonna give him special privileges, special opportunities. Why? Because of the historical. When you look at the historical structural racism in every institution, black people have been discriminated against and harmed. In the that created a wealth gap that is horrible. If we're going to fix that, we got to address that. So I use that as one example. College, same thing. Yeah, you know what I mean? No, going to get a loan for a business, same thing. The same thing. And
I was listening to a podcast this week. It's a podcast, Dr. Alex G, yeah, and it's called Black Like Me. And okay, cool. I got you, Tosh. I got you. Hey, right on, Chad. I want to address a couple things that I'm going to say. I want to address a few of the comments while we're on this particular topic, because folks are watching them and got questions. I want to try to be mindful of that this time, because we always forget and then answer afterwards. But and the reason why I said to talk about it and explain it, I mean, I obviously understand why we need to do it, but I think people don't understand that when a person is disadvantaged and doesn't have the opportunity, it's like saying, It's like, to me, I look at it the same as like doing a 529, investing in my child's education. Right. If my daughter, who is about to be 19, we started a 529 for her when she was really young. Right. And it built up over 18 years to be whatever it is, right? But like if we waited till my youngest was 10 and started her 529, they in the same program. That's a good example. But my oldest daughter had 8 more years for that compound interest. So at the end of that, one of them's 529. Let's just say for the sake of numbers, one of them would be 10,000, and one of them would be 6,000. Well, hey, you both had the same opportunity. You was both invested in, but you started one 8 years earlier. Exactly. And so what we're talking about is reparations is another way. Reparations is a way to make up for the years of compound interest that we missed. That's right. In this particular society. That's right. So when you look at wealth and you look at the generation of wealth, even if we all had the same jobs right now, black people on average, even if we made the same amount of money, there would still be a wealth gap because of the fact that black people don't get the same type of interest rates and the same type. So there's a lot of reasons, and so we can't fully exhaust this. And part of the reason for our time here is just to bring up things for people to think about. Yeah, think about it. Do your research. And what we hope is that people will do research. And so if you will, look up American Descendants of Slavery, ADOS, and look and see what their platform 101.com, is. 101.com, and see what they're about. Let's see real quick. One thing Sister Tammy said, shaking my head, I'm assuming just not... because she's talking about the disparities, knowing her, because she's a writer. So I asked her about what, but I don't think she replied. But Tasha said, we lost our language, culture, family tree connections, traditions. We have slave trauma in our DNA. Yeah, absolutely. We are further behind every election. Yeah. Black people must count. We are 700,000 deep in counting, and we would have power if we coordinated that power. So Tasha said, Tasha's saying we need to understand that we have 700,000 in San Diego. That's a lot.
In the county?
That's what
I didn't know that.
I don't either. But
You told us something.
but the thing is, we have a lot of folks, and so if we understood that, any group that comes to a candidate, if you have a group of people that's 5,000, and you go to a candidate running for a particular election, you say, or 50,000, we got 50,000 people. Imagine if just all the black churches in San Diego got together and just said, we're gonna come together and we're gonna get the person we want in office.
All right.
And we're going to go to this candidate and tell them our people ain't going to vote for you unless you address. Guess what happens? They address those issues. So you're right.
Especially when you need to vote.
You're right. And then Tasha said, don't forget to show up to CAB at Malcolm X at 6 p.m. or RIPA at Bayview Baptist at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Racial profiling is an issue and is accepted by the...
The CAB is tomorrow. CRB, I thought CRB is... Oh, CRB is Wednesday, Tuesday.
CAB.
Okay.
That's with Gerald Brown. My brother Chad said, unity, good stuff. Take care always. Thanks, Chad. And Tasha said, what's a 529? Some people don't know what school savings plans, retirement alternative are, and what they do. Oh, I got you, Sister Tammy. Tammy says, shaking my head in agreement. Got you. And Tammy says, come on. She said, you preaching, Jason? No, I'm not, sister. If I was preaching, I'd ask for an offering. Just kidding.
Just get out the cup.
So
the basket.
So basically, a 529 is a savings plan that parents can do for their children. And what it does is you designate a certain amount of money, depending on where it is, that comes from, and you put it into an account that gains interest over time. And what that money does is that, just in general, a 529 can only be used for education, for educational purposes. So it helps to pay for books, tuition, whatever you want it to do, and it's transferable between your children.
Okay.
But it can only be used for education. So you can't start a 529 and then get mad at your children later on and be like, I ain't giving you this money because the government's going to smack half of that check out your hand. So I would and so one of these days we'll do something. We'll bring somebody in that can talk about some financial planning and stuff like that. It's a brother I have in mind that does that. But that's a great question. I got a sister that my cousin is a wealth management specialist too. So right on, Tasha, that's a good question. Hey, what's going on, Jodell? Herman, hey Mike, what's going on? And I don't know if Antoine and them are still here, but what's up, Antoine? So one of the things that the next thing that we'll talk about, and let's just real quick while we're still at this, I think as we're looking for mayoral candidates, as we're looking for and for us in the black community, if you're looking for like diverse districts in the city of the 9, I think District 4 for sure. District 8 and then District 9 are like the majority of districts that have a majority of the minority population or whatever. And those seats are all taken and doing a really good job. I just want to say publicly that still very blessed. Our sister Monica, Council Member Montgomery, is crushing it. She took a very definite stand. She has fulfilled her commitment. She says she's not going to get in to this office and act brand new. So we just wanted to publicly say, for anybody that would be watching, we just want to say, Council Member Monica Montgomery, thank you for being...
Absolutely. Okay,
so my brother Leon Matthews is one that says he can help build financial wealth. And he's... Leon is like a brother to me. We grew up together.
Okay.
So Leon, type your information into the comment section so people can see who you are. He's a good brother. Just so people can know, Leon Matthews, Sister Cooper, Gloria Cooper. That's her son-in-law. Okay. Leon Matthews is or whatever. So so anybody loves Sister Cooper, you gotta love somebody.
That's right.
Yeah. So so anyway, what was I saying? I can't even remember now. My ADD kicked in. It's talking about the council member Monica Montgomery doing well. She took a stand and remembered her commitment to the community to deal with issues of police, and that's exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
Those of us that are here in San Diego, and I think nationwide as well, we know that a sister. Aaliyah Jenkins died in police custody a few months back.
Right.
The DA refused to hold the police officer accountable. and what he was accountable for was the fact that he didn't render aid when he should have. And you hear a bunch of people. I had to stop commenting on people in the comment section when the DA showed the video. And for one, it's an edited video, like you edit. But one of the things that we do know is that it doesn't matter how you feel about a particular person. When someone says that they need help, it's important that that person gets that help. And public servants don't have the luxury to make distinctions between who they want to help and who they don't. Right. And fortunately, people believe Tasha Williamson. She took this by the mantle with Aaliyah's mother and a lot of other community members and made it happen. And Tasha's been pushing this thing. And so one of the things that that we've seen as a result of this investigation and the DA video coming out, that the council member, along with Georgette Gomez, the council president, and they both came together and stood. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because I think it's important. We need to recognize and honor those council people that are doing what they said that they would do. And for the council president to take on that, to partner with the council member Monica Montgomery to bring this forward, to ask for an attorney general review of that, is huge. Right. And so we want to say thank you to council member Monica Montgomery, and thank you to council president Georgette Gomez for signing that piece of paper and bringing the attorney general here. I think it's the AG, the attorney general.
If he accepts it, hopefully he will.
Well, and we'll see, but we'll push, right? It's power to the people. Yeah. And then I just wanted to say in District 9 with council member Vivian Moreno, just doing some good work. You know, she has always said, I support Councilmember Monica Montgomery no matter what, and I think that some of the things that she stood for has proven that. And so, and then lastly, we'll move on to the next topic. Let's just remember that you know, they're fallible, and some of these things take time, right? And we just have to remember to challenge them when they need to be challenged and encourage them once they respond. So a couple more comments. There are black people in La Jolla, Point Loma, Mira Mesa, Scripps Ranch, San Ysidro, Nestor. Don't disconnect with the entire city of blacks. We live all over the city and country or county. We need to come together and use our power regardless of how we feel. We are dying, being incarcerated and lacking equity as a whole. You're right, Tasha, for mayor. You're right about that. Yeah, there's no question. And I stand corrected. And I guess my thing was the largest concentration of the condensed concentration, but it matters all over the county. Exactly. There's no question about that. And then Tammy Jackson says, Monica is paving the way for others to come. We got to stick together on issues concerning injustice. There's no question about that we need to stick together in any form of injustice, because even Dr. King said, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. Yeah. So if you do something to one person, you have to do it to all. And then we need to have other people in the county that are not, that don't identify as African American or black. They need to come together with it as well. Right. Right. Then Susanna Bankhead say AB 392 affect a case like Aaliyah's. You know, I think AB 392 is really about
use of force.
Use of force, and I don't necessarily know all the nuances of 392. Susanna, that's a good question.
It probably wouldn't, based on what I've read.
But here's one of the things though that we do realize. So here's where passing something like AB 392 would affect a case like this, I would believe, is the collateral effects of AB 392, right? So if you're going to look at the way police shoot and use force, if you're willing to look into that, then I think that'll soften the grip on these other areas that we don't know.
I got you.
Right? So I think that there's a collateral effect of 392 passing, right? Anywhere from an officer slaps somebody, people will be more willing to look at the fact that this officer slapped somebody if something like 392. So I do think that there is some collateral effect inadvertently that would affect investigations. Suzanne, I hope that answers your question. Good job. My brother Leon says he's a financial advisor with Prudential for 6 years. Now he's an independent advisor to help a broader base of clients. Okay. Very important to understand that. Because unless you're willing to, as when you work for a larger company, a lot of how they deal with you working for them, there is a quota type thing. I don't know exactly how that works, but I know institutions larger institutions aren't so like willing to provide resources for underserved communities because they don't bring in the type of capital, right? So a person that's a financial advisor that works for a larger company would have to have a whole lot of big clients in order to help a few clients that don't have the same needs, right? Yeah. And so being an independent allows you to be able to do things the way that you want to do them. So it's important for people to understand that. Don't disparage an independent financial advisor. The one thing I always say, and I asked the guy who deals with my finances, and I was with him before I knew that, or before Leon got into it, is I told him, before I open up my books and show you what I got going on, you open up yours and let me see what kind of money you got, right? Because I ain't gonna let you look at my money and let me look at yours, right? And he opened them too. Yeah. So thankful for them who stood up and saw negligence. You know, that was Sister Tasha said that. You know what, Tasha, we're glad that they did as well, but I think I can speak for the both of us. I'm glad that you did, Tasha. I'm glad that you stick with it. I'm glad that you stuck with this and made the people make this an issue that they need to look at. So let's say, okay, good. So we, Genevieve and I, so Tasha Williams and my DA, Genevieve Jones, right? That's my DA.
I was just with
That's my
Genevieve
DA
yesterday.
for life.
I was just with her yesterday.
Yeah, that's my DA for life. Period. That don't matter. She could be the president. How you doing, President? My DA. That's my DA. She said they have a legislative request for a Aaliyah law to make denial of medical assistance by an officer a crime. Assemblymember Weber picked it up as part of her 50. So that's amazing.
What's the bill?
We do want to support that. What's that?
What's the bill number?
I'm not sure. Tasha, if you could put in the comments what the bill number is for Aaliyah law and what that means, we'll definitely make sure that people support that and that they understand that. So let's move on to our next topic because we're gonna run out of time. We need more focused organizing in the black community or in the black neighborhood. That's something that I wanted to really address because I think and this kind of goes along with like the damage that was done financially to us. If you look at the history of negligence in the black community for all these years and what that did to us financially, what that did to us emotionally, what that did, just the legacy. What we need to see is that the fact that we were denied those things, there's also a collateral effect. What happens in poor, neglected areas is that there's a lot of infighting and there's a lot of things that happen that are bad, and it disrupts our ability to organize. So one of the things that I think we need to do is have I think there needs to be a real effort to address us as a whole coming together and learning how to look at the big picture. If you look at other communities that are smaller,
When you say us,
black people, black BLACK, the black community, right? So when you look at the black community, or as I say in our case, black neighborhoods, right? Because community is where people come together for one purpose, right? So when you look at the black community, we don't really have a unified voice. Right? We come together on certain things and we don't come together on other things. And I think we need to look at that. And that's the reason why I'm wearing this Belong shirt today. I was just in Oakland. Thursday and Friday, there's a Belong conference. And the organizing group that, and you're very aware of Pico, California, and now Faith in Action,
national,
national, and then with Faith in Action is Live Free, and then there's Belong, and I believe I got that right the way that those Live Free is based in Oakland.
So Belong came out of Live Free. Live Free is promoting that or pushing that.
So Pastor Mike McBride is Live Free in Oakland, right?
Right.
And Belong is something from his brother Ben McBride. If you guys want to look up Brother Ben McBride, he's such a good brother, man. I love that guy. And he did there's a documentary that he's a part of that did an investigation in the Oakland Police Department. It's called The Force, and he's in that. But look up Reverend Ben McBride, and the essence of the Belong movement, just in a nutshell, in a 30-second, like, why do I support Belong, is the goal of Belong is to get 1,000 leaders to have Belong groups, 4 sessions that invite 10 people. So 1,000 people that invite 10 people to do these groups is 10,000 people that talk about, we need to create ways that we can bridge our differences. So how is it that I can, as a Christian, I'm a devout Christian, you're a devout Christian, but let's just say right now that we were coming together to promote a particular bill, and we need to support from Muslims, from atheists, from the LGBTQ, from the this, from that. How would we do that? How do we do that? We have to have some common ground to be able to come together. And the only way we can do that is if we create dialogue. And part of the problem, a lot of people say, oh, I don't know what it feels like to be black. Well, if we did Belong circles, if we got together and asked, so tell me how you grew up. Like one of the things we did, one of the questions was,
what's the difference between that and what they do now with these circles they have and with organizing?
That's his prayer call. The brother gets called to prayer. I like it. So I don't know necessarily. I think what the circles that they do now are done in conjunction with something else or as a part of something else. Belong is specific. Like this is what we need to do. And
what's the goal? What's the end goal?
So the reason is so that we can, so if 10 of us sit down and I was to say, if you were to describe yourself and say, I am whatever food you eat, right? Here's when I lived in my area, this is the sounds I am from wherever you're from, and what sounds do you hear in your neighborhood? What do you think about? And part of what it does is and there's other little things that you can do to get people to kind of talk about some of the personal things that are involved in their life. And the reason why that's important is because a lot of times we think that we're so different from each other, but in reality, we're not actually that different. If you look at the things that, like, we have similar, you and I are very different in a lot of ways, in our work, in our families, how we grew up, whatever, but we connect on particular things. And we decided, I mean, it was decided, I guess, but and you and I have different beliefs in the nuances of Scripture, right? We have different beliefs in the nuances, but in the big picture, we believe the same things.
Right.
And so those differences don't have to divide us in the grand scheme of things, right? That's why we can roll. And I could pray for you, and I believe my prayers would be so we can have. And I think that's the same in communities too. We live next to people in our neighborhoods that we think are so different. Because the person across the street goes to work in a Navy uniform, and I go to work in a fire department uniform. You go to work as a community organizer and as a pastor and as a bishop and dealing this, and your neighbor goes to work as an electrician. But the truth is, you as a community organizer and pastor and this electrician both have the same. You listen to the same things in your communities at night. You guys both have families, and if we talk, we will see that all of our families are connected to some of these issues in some way. And if that's the case, then let's come together around those things. So when it comes to voting for laws and stuff, we can do the groundwork before the action. So people will want to come together and talk about some of these things. So that's kind of the goal of Belong.
And you know how I feel.
Bring it out. It's good. This is what this is about.
Because my thing is with all of this is what's been happening. I've been watching some of these national organizations, state organizations, and they're not going to name any, but my disappointment in it is what we was talking about earlier, is we push for everybody else except for black people.
Yeah.
And we always got to get at the back of the line. Now, to draw black people, they say, oh yeah, they'll mention something that impacts black people to draw you in. But once you're drawn in and you belong and all of this, you're pushing somebody else's agenda. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is that the issues that directly impact us as black people is left out. Now, I agree with you, and I like the way, I just want to broadly address it. Now I want to specifically address it because we had conversation about this earlier. I do agree with you in what you were saying as far as Belong is bringing the black community and black neighbor, black folks in together to address our issues. I'm with that. But I'm just not with the broader issue. I'm not an isolation separatist and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just kind of at a place where I'm tired of fighting for other people
Exactly.
And then when it comes to our issues, nobody is there. You know, folks don't show up. You know, and folks don't fight for us. You know, I'm gonna keep going back to just think about the reparations things and look at what the stats say. The census, not the census, the stats say when they did a survey on that. I think it was about 80 to 90%, 92%, or somewhere up in there, white people are against it. Latinos are against it. The only group that was the majority was for it was blacks, right? And that was over 50-something%. And we have a lot of education doing that because, you know, when people, a lot of times, because I know where my mind was before I really dug into it and started looking at it, my mind was, oh man, you can forget about that. That didn't happen. That's all. But that was a false narrative that I believe, right? That somebody put out there, and I bought into that. I think it's white supremacy, and it's that dominant narrative that we buy into and we believe until you really dig in and start looking at the facts and like say, I don't care if it take 100 years to win this. This is worth fighting for.
I got it. Yeah.
You know, today we're fighting for with the stuff that we deal with every time and every day in the communities. We see it, we live it, we know it, and so. I'm all for if we have some belongs that if it's going to be dealing with the black community, but it sounds like what Belong is saying though is we want to reach out to all these different other people, you know, the LGBT, other different religions, you know, the atheists and whites and blacks and browns, and let us all, you know, like the color, let us all come together and belong, get to know each other, and let's fight for each other. But guess what? When we do that, we pushing somebody else's agenda. And what's at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that we're going to be on the bottom of the totem pole, just like right now we're on the bottom of the totem pole. They're down talking about the border all the time and talking about immigration all the time. And I got into it with a gentleman that wrote an article. This was last year sometime because he's talking about separation of children at the border. And I said, well, we got children being separated right here in America. Well, what you talking about? Our black families? No, every avenue you can look at, they're being separated from families. And I don't see no uproar about it. Children being separated from their parents all the time. And we talked about this before. 1 out of 15 children have a parent in prison versus 1 out of 40 children for the rest of the race, other population. So we know that black people, I don't care what avenue you look at, the odds are against us. And it's not because we're cursed people or anything like that. It's because the system is set up against us.
So one of the things
belong,
I get it.
Belong a lot of times, and I hear, look, I don't want people to get mad at me, hate me, and things like that. You know, sometimes I get in trouble with my mouth. But these people move with stuff that they get funding for, and that's the direction they got to go. But that's not. And the people getting the funding are not black people that care about black issues, you know. They'll do that when it's popular to do it, you know. And then even then, they'll start throwing in all these other issues versus let's deal with our issue. Let's deal with this wealth gap that we're dealing with racial wealth gap that we're dealing with. Let's deal with all this oppression and discrimination and racism that has been happening. Others have been dragged caught in the net since they come to America because they're not white. But all these things specifically directed towards black people.
So I think there's two for one. 100% agree. I'm I don't join up. No,
I know you're a real one. You're a real one.
I don't support. I don't do a lot of actions at the border and stuff like that. Not that I don't believe in it. Not that I don't.
Me neither. Yeah.
People shouldn't be getting treated.
And I've gone down there a couple of times, you know. So
and I went last time when they was down there protesting. I went down there. I got there too late, but. So it is important.
And I'm for all people, but I'm just saying, what about us?
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So that's where my heart is. And so the other part of this, I think, from a grander scheme, a bigger picture, is that it's important that if we're going to deal with some of these other larger issues, I don't know if just the black vote, period, is enough to move some of these other things along. If we don't have allies in other areas,
you're right about that.
If we have all the black people only that are for something and everybody else is against it, then we won't go far. Yeah. But here's what we really not gonna do. If we don't come together as a people, period, ain't nobody. If we have to make them make certain things a priority for us.
Yeah, right.
And if we don't
Right.
come together as a people
Yeah.
and begin to say, here's what we will accept, period. If we don't get to do that, none of the other stuff matters.
Right.
And so to me, that's why we need to get ourselves together so we can, because
Yeah.
people pay attention to the things that people have made important. So guess what would happen if enough black people got together and said, here's what we're going to do if you don't listen. And if we don't think that that's true, look at what Tasha does. What do you think has Tasha ever beat up any council member or anything? Beat up any mayor, beat anybody? Has Tasha? No. Nobody's afraid of Tasha's hands. Like she gonna do something to
And
the
she proved a lot of what people say about organizing wrong too, because they a lot of times say, oh, you don't have no power if you don't have numbers and all that. But sometimes she just think by herself. People get scared. They change stuff too. But in her own little way, she's powerful and changes a lot of stuff.
The reason why,
imagine if
and I think
100 of us
like and that. I think a lot of the reason why, people are afraid. Think about John 3:16 in the Bible, story of Jesus talking to Nicodemus. Everybody in the whole world knows what John 3:16 says, right? Everybody knows what John 3:16 says.
God so loved.
Yeah, but how many people know the other verses that are around that?
Yeah,
that actually give context, right?
Come on into the light and don't be afraid that your evil deeds.
Right? And so listen, that's why I always tell people, you don't have to be a Christian. It's okay. You can always make the hypocrite in the church your reason why you don't want to go. That's fine.
Right.
I'll be your excuse, but I ain't gonna never be your reason. Here's the reason why people don't come to the light of Jesus or the light of anything. People love doing things in darkness. And here's a perfect example of this. So Jesus is talking and he says, for God so loved the world in this way. He gave his one and only son so that whoever believes will not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his son into the world that he might condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through it. So Jesus didn't come going, you're this, you're that. That wasn't the purpose for him coming. People think but no, his whole purpose for being here was to bring light. False, that word false, the ability to see. In Greek, anyone who believes in him is not condemned, but anyone who does not believe is already condemned because he has not believed in the name of the one and only Son of God. Listen, here's the judgment. The light has come into the world, and people love darkness rather than the light because their deeds were evil. For everyone who practices wicked things hates the light and avoids it so that his deeds may not be exposed. But anyone who lives by the truth comes to the light so that his works may be shown to be accomplished by God. So one of the things that we know is that truth never hides.
That's right.
Truth never hides.
That's right.
So guess what? I was talking to a police officer the other day about 392. And one of the guys that was running for city council with council member Monica Montgomery. And we were
just
all
recently?
talking. Yeah, he was one of the, and so we were talking, and the subject came up about 392, and possibly it wasn't a good thing about police accountability and not being really like down with what Councilman Montgomery was talking about, right?
Want to be held accountable.
But I was standing next to the police officer, and I said, "Let me ask you something. If the city of San Diego opened up your police file right now and exposed it to the world, would you have a problem with that?" They were like, "Nah." I was like, "That's because you haven't done nothing wrong. Why would you be afraid to be accountable? You can open up my work record. What have I done? I don't have nothing to hide." Right? But people love darkness because they don't want their evil deeds to be exposed. So anytime the light comes, people don't want their evil deeds to be exposed, right?
And they don't want to be held accountable.
And so that's the same thing with these politicians.
Yeah.
These politicians do the same thing. I hope our thing hasn't frozen.
What?
These politicians do the same thing. Maybe it hasn't. But they do the same thing. So when someone like Tasha comes and brings the media and shines light on what you're doing, you don't like that. Why? You don't want to be exposed. They're like, hey, just make her go away, man. Try to give her a little. So that's what they do with a lot of these preachers here in San Diego. They give them $2,000. Some of these dudes will be quiet for $2,000, right? Let me give you $2,000 and just get you on away from here or whatever.
Some get a lot more than that.
But they do it for as little as $600 if that's what
cheap,
right? So my point is that we can't afford to do that.
Right.
So when Tasha brings the cameras down, shines a light on what you're doing, it makes it so people are like, whoa, we don't want you to expose
Right,
us like
right,
that.
right.
So it's the same. And so we need to know that. And so just imagine if one person brings light to a situation and exposes it, and then what happens is what they don't want is they don't want people who have the ability to organize.
Right.
So imagine if Tasha could go down to the mayor's office and say, we want this and this to happen, and action takes place. Imagine if 1,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 other people. Imagine when Councilmember Monica Montgomery stands up to write a letter to say we want the AG to come. The city council, the chief of police, anybody that begins to gun for her, I put it on my Facebook. Believe me, that letter she wrote is not free.
Right, that's true.
It ain't free for her or Council President Georgette
That's
Gomez or anybody on the city
true.
council that stands with that.
That's
And
true.
so what I'm saying, the reason why we need to have a
And why? And think about that. Why is it such a problem with a letter? Think about it. And all these different people, these systems coming up against them, right? Because a black woman, it could be a black man or black, it was a black person that they're fighting for. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a black person.
Yeah.
And it's always with black people, we gotta fight for everything. Where everybody else is handed stuff. Handed down thing. You didn't earn it. You didn't work for it.
Right.
It was given to you.
Right.
And the college scandal kind of let you see how the rich roll, right?
We know it. And I just think it's important. I guess for me it's just, I know we need to focus on getting ourselves together. And that's why we need to focus on our issues alone.
Yes, thank you.
And then we can reach
Thank
out
you.
and say, and then we can say, here's what we want from you. We want your vote. Don't be mad. Call your council member. Don't get upset. Don't say you hate this person getting treated the way they're treated, and then don't call the senator or whatever to talk about 392 and stuff. So
what's the end game with Belong?
So I think ultimately belong is to bring those issues, to have those discussions. And for me, one of the things that I feel, the reason why I thought that it was so appealing for me, what I thought was very,
the bumper sticker.
yeah. So, and I did that one because number one, whenever you, I heard from a guy that said before you go work for a company, you have to realize that when you work for that company, you're really working for the CEO. You're supporting this CEO's mission, right? That's what you're doing. And so from seeing the way that Pastor Ben McBride has lived and the things that he has fought for, I believe in that brother. I believe what he's doing is right. I believe ultimately what he's doing is right. And I believe anybody like that has shown me until they show me something different, right?
Amen.
So I believe in